Let's start with the Mariners. They lose the series finale in Pittsburgh 5-1. The M's definitely had their chances to score runs in this game, but they left the bases loaded 3 times at PNC Park in Pittsburgh. In all, they left 11 men on base. Terry, you look at this game as just an unlucky day for the Mariners?
Yeah, at a certain point, you got to say it's past being beyond unlucky. You know what I mean? We've talked about them being unlucky for a while. We've talked about some of the troubles that they've had this season. They've been walking a tightrope with some of the things they've been dealing with. The injuries, the guys on the IL, guys going into slumps. But now it's a real thing. It's like a real problem. They lost these games against a Pirates team that wasn't really super good. They had some great pitching, but the offense that we're putting up right now out of Seattle, it's abysmal, and that's being polite.
I mean, Ariel, you and I go back and forth about this team as well all season long, and you're just kind of like, they've reached the halfway point, and it's just a question of, whether that hitting can catch up with the pitching, because it seems like the pitching, usually, at least the starting rotation, is always there.
Yeah, and you got to feel for guys like Bryce Miller, who obviously go out there, pitch a heck of a game and just can't get the run support behind him. But I did look at some of the, midway point stats, and they're right where they've been the past couple of years. Even last year when they made it to the ALCS, they were only one or two games back at that point. So it's kind of crazy that they're playing so poorly, but sitting right there at 500, they're still right in the mix. And actually, their best season in the past few years was 2024, when they ended up firing Scott Service because of the abysmal finish to that season.
Yeah, well, I mean, things are just not going well for this team right now. They failed to score more than 3 runs now in 11 straight games. They're hitting 183 in that stretch. When the Mariners score 4 or more runs, they're 28-11. So that's that magic threshold right there. They hit the ball hard in yesterday's game, and credit to the Pirates, they made some big defensive plays to save their own bacon. Here's manager Dan Wilson.
I think the frustrating part is that they don't have anything to show for it, and put up some good ones. And, you get a pitch on the plate, and you hit it hard somewhere. We had other balls earlier in the game that we hit hard that just were either run down or were right at somebody, and I think it becomes frustrating. It's part of baseball for sure, and that's why we got to move on and get ready for tomorrow. But certainly just got to continue to put up good at bats and hit the ball hard.
You can hear them throwing the equipment around in there as they're packing up in Pittsburgh and getting ready to go to Cleveland, which won't be an easy task for this team looking ahead to this weekend. I'm getting a little tired of talking about Rob Refsnider. This guy has been the target of critics all season long. He's hitting 137 this season. He got 1 at bat yesterday. Dan Wilson elected to pinch hit Refsnider for Luke Raley against a left-hander, and we know the Mariners brought Refsnider to Seattle because of his success against lefties. Unfortunately, he did not come through, leaving the bases loaded. Do the Mariners need to get some help, some situational hitters, or 2? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm also getting tired of beating up on Rob Refsnider. I
agree.
But we have to, because it is a failed experiment. I mean, he was brought here to be a lefty specialist, and his OPS again is horrible against lefties and really just in general. So do they need some help? Yeah, they probably need some help. They probably need to make some moves at the trade deadline. But more than anything, they have to move on from Rob Refsnider. They've got to get rid of him. He also is on a $6 million contract, Paul?
Yeah, one year deal, 6.25 to be exact, because we've talked about him so much. That number's just ingrained in my head for sure. But, you look at this guy, and this team needs to kind of, it's a Fisher cut bait. It's kind of like at this point, you probably got some young guys lined up. We talk about their prospects all the time, and maybe the chance to go out and get somebody before the trade deadline. But this is money spent. It's already guaranteed to him. So whether he's on this team or not, maybe it's time to give somebody else an opportunity.
Well, I just want to take it back to this last series versus the Pirates, something that we saw take place during that series. We saw him come in and be a pinch hitter for Luke Raley when the bases were loaded. And obviously, it didn't pan out so well. So I think we have a situation sometimes where we start to overthink in sports. It's not just baseball, but baseball particularly. It's all about the analytics and looking at numbers and who bats well against lefties or righties. And you got a guy that you bring in that situation that has been obviously struggling this year, especially against lefties. You leave your guy Luke in there to do his thing. And so I think there's some questions about, making better decisions. But of course, we've been talking really badly about Rod for a while. but it's deservedly so.
I mean, it seemed like
you're batting at one. You bat 1.137. It's not good.
It's like self-sabotage, really, when you're in that position with the bases loaded. Obviously, you need something, and you put up a guy that has that kind of batting average. Like I said, I feel like it's sabotage.
I still think it's one of the toughest things to do in baseball is when you pull a guy off the bench, you've been watching just the action, and all of a sudden the bases are loaded, and Dan says seventh inning, hey, go on out there and
Yeah, but you know who can do that? Like Dom Canzone or someone like there's guys who are actually really good at doing that. Yeah. And clearly, Rob Refsnider has not been playing up to that caliber. And so to pull him off cold and put him in that position, it's a lot of pressure to put on a guy like that.
So when I saw this thing happen, and I was like, how can I describe this to people who are like really football-minded? Because we've got a lot of football-minded people here in Seattle and people that watch this show. I was thinking, like, what if the Seahawks had an incredible 80-yard drive all the way down the field? They get on the 1-inch yard line. It's 4th and goal, and they're like, we got a great idea. Let's put Travis Myers in and give him the ball at running back. It's a bad idea. Like, you running down the field the entire way, and you put in your kicker. So, yeah, it wasn't a good idea. I think maybe, like I said, it's unfortunately maybe time to move on from this experiment.
Yeah, we'll see. I just think I'm not feeling sorry for Rob. I'm just saying one of the toughest things I think in baseball is to do that, is to come off the bench and be productive late in the game when you've been sitting the whole time. But these guys are pros. They know what they're doing, and they've done it throughout their careers. Now, Bryce Miller, on the other hand, let's talk about the pitching of this team. He got the start. He threw 5 2/3 innings. He gave up 3 runs on 5 hits. But most impressive, he struck out 11 batters in Pittsburgh. Miller has an ERA of 1.97. Now, they talked about Miller on the broadcast, saying the odd thing about his outings is when teams get to him, they get to him with home runs. He doesn't give up RBI singles and doubles. They get that long ball off him, but still, you look at his numbers. Ariel, has he become the ace of this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, at least for this year. Last year, we thought that Brian Wu was the ace of this team because he was having such a great year, and obviously he's struggling. So I think that when you have a team like this, the beauty is you've got about 5 aces on this team, and they can kind of show up in different ways, different nights. But Bryce Miller, I mean, as soon as he got away from the piggyback, we're seeing how much he can shine in these regular starting situations when he doesn't have like the team breathing down his back a little bit, Paul.
All right, the Mariners have a lot of talented players, the pitchers and the hitters. It's just a matter of it all coming together for them. But how much attention are they getting nationwide? We know Julio and Randy Arozarena are having all-star seasons so far, but those two and the rest of the Mariners got snubbed in Phase 2 all-star voting. That means neither player was considered top 2 at their position. Does it surprise either one of you that all of a sudden, these guys are kicking butt, people are taking notice, and all of a sudden they disappear?
It absolutely does not surprise me at all. I think that a lot of times when it comes to Seattle sports, we get ignored, period. And I know a lot of people are going to be West Coast bias thing, but it is very true. You look at some of the guys we have on this team, you look at some of the pitchers that we have on this team, one of the best pitching staffs in the entire major leagues, right? And none of them get voted like that? Like we just talked about Bryce Miller. We looked at the numbers that he puts up all season. That's incredible. Logan Gilbert, incredible. And then we have guys, like you said, guys that have obviously been snubbed. Julio, a guy that's a perennial all-star. I think that we just get left out of the conversation a lot of time because we're in the upper left corner of the map. A lot of teams and a lot of country is asleep when we play. So, yeah, it's unfortunate about us living here in Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like kind of like as soon as Cal Raleigh doesn't have a good year, people are like, well, write the Mariners off. Like he was really the only big household star of this team last year, and he had a rough start. Then he had his oblique injury. Now he's back with a bit more of a rough middle. So, I think that without a big name like that, I mean, Julio, he should be a superstar, right? And he's being paid like a superstar. He's definitely playing one of his best first halves in his career. But, people, I think, just like Terry said, people just forget about that.
But even last year, when we saw Cal Raleigh do his thing, it was an incredible season, right? He still kind of got a little bit of a snub at the end of the season, being the runner-up for the AL MVP, right?
For sure. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of people had him as the MVP last year, and you're right. I mean, Aaron Judge is always going to get more attention being in New York than Cal Raleigh here in Seattle.
For sure. I mean, look, while the Mariners sit in first place in the AL West, the future Mariners have been garnering their own attention. We hear a lot about the top pitching prospects and Ryan Sloan and Cade Anderson, but Las Montez has been pounding the ball at AA Arkansas, and last night, Felnine Celestin, the 20-year-old shortstop for the Everett Aqua Sox, hit for the cycle. This guy has a ton of potential, but he may rarely play for the Mariners because Colt Emerson seemingly has shortstop locked up for years to come. Is he in the same position as former M's prospect Harry Ford? Great catcher, just no room with Cal Raleigh here.
Yeah, I think that's a great comparison. However, with a guy like Harry Ford or just a catching position, you really can't go anywhere with that. Like sometimes they get pushed over to first base, but there's really not a lot of movement there. At least with a middle infielder here, it's possible that they try to train him over at third. You don't really have a full-on third baseman, especially with JP's contract coming up. So perhaps they train him a little bit somewhere else in the infield, and then you can use him that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. The fact that there is a chance to slide him somewhere over there, but second and short seem to be locked up. So at this point, where is this guy? Because he is 20 years old, and I mean, he is an absolute stud when it comes to the scouts out there. They know this guy's got a ton of potential, and he's waiting to just bust out, but he needs a place to bust out.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, do you find a spot for him somewhere in the outfield? I don't know baseball like that. I don't know how that position, translates to other positions on the field. I know, it's very specific being a catcher, but the guy's able to play out of his mind offensively, right? So how do you do that? What do you do? Do you let him go? Do you try to get your money's worth by trading him somewhere else, or give your chances and let him play a different position? I don't know. I would love to see him in a Mariners uniform because anybody with that kind of productivity, we'd love to have him here in Seattle.
Yeah, they just got to move him around, though. They got him up in Everett, and he's going to get his time at AA Arkansas and his time at AAA Tacoma. So it's a matter of just how fast they move him along the chain.